A big fire burned out Lin Yunyan's last glimmer of hope. The thick smoke billowed, mocking her overconfidence. Suddenly waking up from a dream, one cannot fall twice in the same pit. Lin Yunyan's new life started with a bad hand. Keywords of the novel. Yan Ci Gui EP1-10, Yan Ci Gui TXT Complete Collection Download, Yan Ci Gui Latest Chapter Reading. Chapter 1. Bad Hand. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Bad Hand. The flames engulfed the sky. Lin Yunyan fell and sat on the ground, in a mess as far as she could see. The burning sensation in the air made her gasp for breath, and the scorching wind enveloped her, as if in the next moment, her hair would burn. We need to escape. Where is the door? The thick smoke billowed, causing Lin Yunyan's tears to flow down her face. She couldn't wipe it off and could only widen her eyes in an attempt to discern the direction. Later, she saw Su Jian lying not far away. Su. Lin Yunyan was choked and coughed as soon as she spoke. Su Jian remained motionless. Suddenly, Lin Yunyan realized that Su Jian had fainted. The memories from the previous moment also rushed into my mind. At that time, she was inspecting this place with Su Jian when suddenly, without any warning, the roof collapsed. Su Jian's eyes were sharp and her hands were fast. Lin Yunyan, who couldn't react in the future, pushed away and all the tiles fell on him. Although Lin Yunyan was away from the center of the collapse, she was also affected and fell into a coma for a while. When she concentrated again, she was in her current situation. She is still like this, not to mention Su Jian who was smashed straight. We need to rescue Su Jian. Suppressing the scorching heat, Lin Yunyan tugged hard at the broken tiles on Su Jian's body. The more she scraped, the heavier her heart sank. Su Jian could still feel a pulse on his neck, but there was no sign of waking up. Even worse, the previous push on her caused Su Jian to fall off the wheelchair, causing it to roll over and being pinned down by the overturned table and chairs. How can she move unconscious Su Jian out of the room without a wheelchair? Even if Su Jian woke up, he couldn't walk, let alone now leaving Su Jian behind and escaping alone should be the best choice at the moment. Lin Yunyan knows, but she can't do it. She and Su Jian are grasshoppers on the same rope. Without Su Jian, Lin Yunyan would have lived through the first year of junior high school, but not even 15. It is even highly likely that the killer is still waiting outside. This room collapsed for no reason, and it can be said to be in disrepair for a long time, but once it collapsed, it caught fire. How could there be no human intervention? The killer's purpose is to make her and Su Jian die here. Thinking about this, a wave of resentment surged and instantly filled my heart. It's amazing that the two of them tried their best, but their efforts fell short. Those truths will be covered up again and cannot be revealed to the sky. The tiles cut through her fingers and palms, making her blood and thoughts blurry. Lin Yunyan used her last strength to dig and move. Death is definitely going to happen, at least make Su Jian's death easier. His legs are weak and he can't eat hard. How uncomfortable it is to be pressed by such heavy broken tiles. These sins, these pains, we cannot let those bastards taste them. It's really, really hard to close my eyes. Cha-cha, cha-cha, the sound surged from all directions, deafening. That's cicadas chirping. Why do you hear cicadas chirping? Lin Yunyan suddenly opened her eyes and saw a vast expanse of white light. She was slightly stunned for a moment and realized that it was sunlight. The summer afternoon sunlight shone through the window frames, making the hall extremely bright. And she is leaning against the bed of Arhat under the window. Princess, what's wrong with you? Lin Yunyan followed the sound and instinctively asked, what's wrong with me? As soon as she spoke, the maid's face changed from timid to frightened. Lin Yunyan frowned. How could Wanyua be so young? Something's wrong. She was busy observing her surroundings. The boga shelf is filled with exquisite ornaments, the flower branches in the bottle are in bud, and there is a playful scroll hanging on the wall, which is her childhood masterpiece. Each scene and object is a memory of their appearance. This is clearly the west side hall of the Sinang Palace. In her early years, she often went to the palace to accompany the Empress Dowager. When the Empress Dowager had something to avoid, she would let her come here for a short rest. But since the Empress Dowager passed away, she has never come again. Young Wanyue, the side hall that she has never been to for many years, and the big fire that burned so hard that she couldn't escape the previous moment an idea emerged, shocking the world and causing Lin Yunyan to involuntarily take a deep breath. Wanyue probed and asked again, "Are you having a nightmare?" Lin Yunyan's eyelashes trembled slightly. "Did you have a nightmare?" That was really a nightmare, long and oppressive, intertwined with countless calculations and betrayals, with visible guns and hidden arrows. Her family was in ruins and Su Jian was desperate. Over the years, she collided with Su Jian, causing her head to break and blood to flow. She attempted to catch the glimmer of hope in her hand, which eventually turned into grief, pain, and despair in the raging fire. The thick smoke and scorching flames laughed at their overestimation. Bloody and vivid. So much so that, when I suddenly woke up from a dream and returned to the bright side hall, I remembered that experience where even the bright sunlight could not illuminate the darkness in my heart. They were all there, reminding her that even a dream was genuine and heartbreaking. If she can't turn it around, she will still go towards that situation and leave all the pain deep in her heart. People cannot fall in the same pit again. Not only did she not fall herself, but she also kicked the person digging the pit down with one foot, allowing those who started it to taste this taste with profit. Glancing at the cautious Wanyue, Lin Yunyan said, "I'm having a nightmare." "I'm not afraid, what are you afraid of?" Wanyue was stopped by questioning. It seems like this logic. But the princess's previous appearance really scared her. The princess was already closing her eyes and suddenly opened them, with a gloomy and violent aura overflowing in her eyes, as if she wanted to fight desperately with someone. Her princess has a pair of beautiful eyes, and who wouldn't praise her for having a smile and a glint that speaks? When did these beautiful eyes have such a ferocious aura? "I am timid," said Wanyue timidly. Upon hearing this, Lin Yunyan smiled instead. She knew Wanyue, who was loyal and resilient, and these 2 points alone were worth more than 10 million. What's cowardice worth? If you practice, you'll have more courage, Lin Yunyan said. After all, who didn't come this way? The sound of footsteps, from far to near, stopped outside the hanging curtain. "Princess, the Empress Dowager has arrived. Please come over, Empress Dowager." Lin Yunyan responded, but didn't rush out. Instead, she walked around and sat down in front of the dressing mirror. The girl in the mirror is wearing cardamom, with bright eyes and white teeth, picturesque eyebrows and eyes, embellished with pearl flowers in her hair, swaying gently with her movements. She combed the girl's hair, which should be 13 years ago in Yongjia. Because in the spring of 13 years, she married Su Jian and started combing her hair. Is that 12 years, or 11 years? Glancing at Wanyue, who was tidying up her hair, Lin Yunyan thought to herself. If it weren't for the Empress Dowager waiting, she should have asked carefully. However, no matter which year or situation it is, she must live well. It's not good to ask the Empress Dowager to wait for a long time. Lin Yunyan went to the main hall. As soon as she entered the inner hall, she saw several people sitting at the square table. On the table of the 8 immortals crossing the sea, which was loved by the Empress Dowager, there was a horse hanging tag. She sat around with Empress Dowager Wen and Queen Mother Wang, all looking at her with joy. Hurry up, the Empress Dowager waved, 3 deficiencies and 1, waiting for you. Yes. Lin Yunyan spent most of her time hanging horses with the Empress Dowager. Once seated, throw the dice and pick up the cards. Lin Yunyan. A bad hand. Heaven is angry and people are resentful. Twisting her fingertips over the card face, Lin Yunyan bent her eyes. No matter how bad the cards are, she has to sort them out step by step. Her new life started with such a pile of cards. Book friends, long time no see. The new book has officially begun, and everyone is having a great time reading it. End of this chapter. Chapter 2 is not interrupted. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 is not interrupted. The sound of the horse hanging card was crisp, and as you came and went, the hand gradually took on some shape. The princess is so serious, it seems that she won't be a loose money boy today. Upon hearing the Empress Dowager's teasing, all the palace maids in attendance nearby laughed. How many old ladies still care about her little child? The Empress Dowager smiled and turned to Lin Yunyan, take all your salary. Let's let you win more today. Lin Yunyan responded sweetly, calling the Empress Dowager even more cheerful. These are all jokes. After all, the Ma Jiao who spends time in the Sinang Palace comes and goes with only a small amount of money, which is only a drop in the bucket compared to her salary. There are not many girls in our court who are richer than her family background. And such wealth and prosperity stem from her mother. My mother is the niece of the Empress Dowager's family. More than 10 years ago, when the emperor was still a prince, she suffered a disaster to save her grandson and left behind a daughter who was only 1.5 years old. The Empress Dowager was deeply saddened, and the Holy One felt guilty and grateful. After ascending the throne, Lin Yunyan was appointed as the Princess of Ningyan, enjoying her princess's salary. Once upon a time, Lin Yunyan thought she would never be short of money for a lifetime. It was not until she was engulfed by a heinous conspiracy that she understood that royal possessions could be given and taken back. Her status as a princess is like this, and so is the title of the Lin family. All the registered gold, silver, precious artifacts, and jade contracts have been collected cleanly, with even the principal and interest, leaving a room that can shelter from the wind and rain. It is already a magnificent act of imperial kindness. She and Su Jian, two wet mud bodhisattvas, have no ability to even help their loved ones. Recalling her past life experiences, Lin Yunyan took a tight breath, as if a scorching flame was sweeping back. What a bad taste. Fortunately, she still has time to make some changes now. Just as Lin Yunyan was about to reach out and touch the card, she caught a glimpse of a corner in the curtain of the room. Lin Yunyan looked over and realized that Xiao Gong had entered. The maid, who was in her early 30s, had a very kind face and bowed according to the rules before saying, "Madam, the imperial study has brought a pot of coral." The Empress Dowager raised her eyebrows. Xiao Gong clapped his hands. Quickly, the attendant waiting outside came in and held a pot of coral to the card table. Lin Yunyan looked around for a moment. This coral is naturally formed and not carved. Although it is not exquisite, it has a natural taste and should be very pleasing to the eyes of the Empress Dowager. So big a plant, the Empress Dowager nodded slightly to show satisfaction, who pays tribute from below. Xiao Gong replied, the emperor summoned Duke Fu, and this coral was presented by Duke Guo. Lin Yunyan's long eyelashes trembled. In the 10th year of Yongjia, Duke of Fugua Su Mang passed away due to illness, and at the age of 16, Su Jian inherited the title. In the same year, Su Jian fought against the enemy in Xiliang at Yumen Pass and made great achievements, but also broke his right leg. Not to mention continuing to fight against the enemy, he couldn't even walk without a wheelchair. Previously, at the side hall, Lin Yunyan speculated about the current year from her own mirror appearance, which was about 11 or 12 years, and it would never be earlier. Therefore, the current Su Jian is already not suitable for action. Thinking of this, a strong sense of regret surged from her heart. It's really a pity. With Su Jian's talent in both literature and martial arts, if he had not been injured and difficult to treat, he would have been able to make achievements again. The court lacks talents like him. If he could still lead troops, participate in battles, and contribute as a bargaining chip, how could he be suppressed and forced into that field in later years? Honors, titles, and backgrounds are all illusory in the midst of the overlapping imperial power. If one wants to avoid abandoning a child, the only thing they can rely on is value. As a fellow grasshopper for many years, I don't know if I can help him a little on the side. The Empress Dowager smiled and looked at the coral for a while before asking, "What kind of wind is blowing today? Why did he even offer a treasure?" Xiaogong's face froze for a moment, hesitated for a moment, but he remained honest and said, "I've heard that the Duke of Gua is here to submit his resignation, and he doesn't want to work in the Ministry of War anymore." Upon hearing this, the Empress Dowager's eyes darkened. Lin Yunyan actually understood. In the 11th year of the Yongjia reign, Su Jian went to Jianmao in the Ministry of War after the start of the Chinese New Year. After more than half a year of using a wheelchair, he resigned from his official position. Now, it is the time for him to resign. The reason behind it is that Lin Yunyan heard him say a few words, all of which were pointed out to the point. However, after several years of getting married, she can still gain some insight into the underlying reasons to some extent. To put it bluntly, it is most likely related to the Lu family. Su Jian was alone in the mansion, but he was not alone. His parents were still alive, and he had a younger brother and sister. Old Duke Su Mang had outstanding military achievements throughout his life. After his wife passed away, he did not renew his string and only had one daughter under his knee. I originally wanted to hire a son-in-law who could inherit the inheritance, but unfortunately, my daughter was rescued by Lu Jing, a new expert in science and technology, and I developed feelings for her. Su Mang didn't beat the Mandarin duck with a stick, took a step back, and changed his son-in-law to marry a daughter. He only requested that the first boy born between the two be surnamed Su and sent back to the government to be raised. This boy is Su Jian. He left his parents at a young age and called Su Mang his grandfather, practicing martial arts and studying. Lu Jing had outstanding talent and education, and also married the daughter of the Duke of the State. Over the past decade, he rose to prominence in his official career and thus became a high-ranking official in the Honglu Temple. According to the blood relationship between the two sides, Lu Mansion and Fu Guogong Mansion are not far apart, but there is not much interaction, especially after Su Jian broke one leg and had to use a wheelchair for transportation, which is very inconvenient and makes it even more disliked. In Lin Yunyan's impression, they would only go to Lu Mansion to show their faces during festivals and holidays. She sat with her unfamiliar mother-in-law and sister-in-law, talking about trivial family matters. After Su Jian and Lu Jing came out of the study, they went back to their mansion. Sometimes, Su Jian's younger brother and the nominal eldest son of the Lu family are also in the study. Whether it was a conversation between 2 or 3 people, Su Jian would not mention the content to her. Lin Yunyan tried to ask, but was also diverted from the topic by him. It could only be seen from his expression that those conversations were not pleasant. Even a few times, Su Jian couldn't control his emotions well. His gloomy eyes and tense lips clearly showed by Zhang's anger and dissatisfaction. Even though those temperaments were not directed towards her, and Su Jian was not someone who could vent her anger, Lin Yunyan still remembered them deeply. Because she is powerless, she can't help Su Jian at all. Even the most distant parents and brothers are still connected by blood. Su Jian refused to say much, so Lin Yunyan naturally had nowhere to start. Although it was a friendship where they were trapped in a big fire holding hands, as comrades in arms, they did not achieve honesty and sufficient trust. Of course, as a couple, it was even more inadequate. Is it still a leg injury? Upon hearing Empress Wen speak, Lin Yunyan lifted her eyes and looked at her. The Empress Dowager spoke slowly. It looks like she can walk and walk steadily, but I happened to take a closer look once and actually felt a bit limp. It's just that the Duke of the country is too strong to be easily noticed. With the Empress Dowager's sigh, Lin Yunyan suddenly widened her eyes. Can we go? Limp. Su Jian's leg, hasn't it broken? The signing status has been changed. Special attention to data during the new book period, seeking recommended monthly tickets, end of this chapter. Chapter 3. Just Dreaming. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 3. Just Dreaming. In Lin Yunyan's memory, there was a long and terrifying scar on Su Jian's right leg. That was cut by the Western Liang cavalry sword, which was Su Jian's military achievement and also cut off Su Jian's path to continue military service. When Su Jian was injured, he was only 16 years old, which should have been the age when Hao Langli's sword was unsheathed. He killed hundreds of Western Liang soldiers with his comrades, and when he returned to the camp, the military doctor was helpless with his bloody right leg. My leg was saved, but it was also broken. Since then, in Su Jian's words, this leg has become a decoration. Staying there for a while, not leaving the pants empty, if there's any use, it's really useless. I still have to wait and take care of myself. Every day, I soak medicine, inject needles, press and tap. Despite this, it still shrank and lost its vitality in January, accompanied by the snake-like scar, which looked even more frightening. For some reason, it implicated my left leg. I could still stand on one leg with a cane and walk for a while, but later on, the cane became useless and completely tied to the wheelchair. Lin Yunyan turned her gaze back to Lady Wen. The Empress Dowager carefully talked to the Empress Dowager about the process of seeing clues on that day. Lin Yunyan became more and more confused as she listened. She had seen Su Jian's leg with her own eyes and the scar, which was clearly such a serious injury. Why is Su Jian still able to walk like nothing happened now? Did you encounter the Hua Tuo Bien Ke and the miraculous hand to come back to life? Upon hearing the words of Empress Dowager, there was a hint of regret, while Lin Yunyan was filled with joy. Compared to sitting in a wheelchair and never being able to stand up again, just having an inconspicuous limp doesn't mean there's nothing wrong. Of course, she still has doubts. With lowered eyes, Lin Yunyan pretended to sigh and said, "How could Lord Guo be so badly injured?" Yeah, Empress Wen sighed, that skill could have been like his grandfather, but... Speaking of which, that injury was also... Lin Yunyan perked her ears and heard the Empress Dowager suddenly pause. When she spoke again, only one sigh remained. It's a pity, it's a pity. Such a turning point may not be considered abrupt, but Lin Yunyan could hear it. When Taifei must have thought of something and swallowed the reason for Su Jian's injury, that had already reached her mouth. Even at that moment, her gaze slightly shifted towards the Empress Dowager and then withdrew. Why? Lin Yunyan couldn't understand. Su Jian was injured while fighting against a person from Xiliang, which is a military achievement. He is upright and upright. What cannot be mentioned? Just talking, I've forgotten how to deal with the cards, when Taifei's hands pressed onto the horse suspension. Come on, I want to reclaim a city. The card table is once again lively. The coral was placed on the bogus shelf, with cicadas chirping incessantly outside. The table was playing cards, occasionally talking about fun. No one mentioned the person who gave the coral. After 3 rounds of playing, I heard that Empress Dowager's face was tired, and then it was considered the end of the game. When Taifei stood up and took leave, Lin Yunyan was sent out and left the main hall. She had intended to ask Su Jian about it again, but after some thought, she decided to leave. The Empress Dowager Wen loves to talk about family matters, but she is also aware of the appropriate topic. She is also very obedient to the Empress Dowager. Since she had swallowed her words before, she would not say anything no matter how much she asked. All the way to the outside of the Sinang Palace, Lin Yunyan turned around and returned to the side hall. The card table has been closed, and the Empress Dowager moves to sit on the arhat bed near the window, leans against the bed table, and sees one place. Lin Yunyan followed her gaze and saw the pot of coral given by Su Jian. Did the Empress happen to be looking over there, or was she pondering over Su Jian? Lin Yunyan couldn't eat for a moment. Noticing her return, the Empress Dowager withdrew her gaze and waved at her, come and sit here with the AI family for a while. Lin Yunyan agreed and sat down on the other side of the bed table. Do you have something on your mind? The Empress Dowager asked without waiting for Lin Yunyan to answer. There's no need to deny it, as the AI family can tell, you're feeling more tense today than ever before. Being exposed like this, Lin Yunyan naturally couldn't say anything about the scene. Her mind is indeed tense. The moment before, there was a raging fire, and the moment after, she was in the Sinang Palace. For her, the Sinang Palace a few years ago was so revolutionary that even if she guessed her own situation, she couldn't immediately take it calmly. Su Jian's leg injury is different from what she remembers. How much has changed in other people and things. Pull one hair and move the whole body. She needs some time to calm down and seriously think about the current situation. Su Jian once said that being calm and composed is a prerequisite. Only by mastering everything can one truly be calm, relaxed, and strategized. Otherwise, pretending to deceive an unfamiliar person can still have 3 to 5 points of effectiveness, but in the eyes of discerning people, it is simply a paper tiger. And the Empress Dowager, who had read countless people, was also too familiar with Lin Yunyan. At this moment, the situation clearly did not give her time to slowly sort out her thoughts, and Gu Yuyu said that his method would only have a counterproductive effect on the Empress Dowager's use. Lin Yunyan lowered her eyes and, after a hesitant silence, finally spoke softly, I had a nightmare while resting in the side hall before. Upon hearing this, the Empress Dowager chuckled and said, it's not a child of 5 or 6 years old. What kind of dream is so scary? Big fire, Lin Yunyan said, the room is on fire, thick smoke is rolling, and I'm trapped inside, unable to escape at all. With just a few words, the Empress Dowager's eyebrows suddenly twisted, and the smile on her lips almost disappeared. She reached out and held Lin Yunyan in her arms, supporting her back with each movement. Good child, it's just a dream, she said. Upon seeing this, Grandma Wang quickly gave a glance to the others. The palace maids and attendants walked out lightly, and Wang Mama glanced at the two of them again before retreating and standing outside the curtain. She clasped her palms and whispered, Amitabha Buddha. She also noticed that the princess was absent-minded at the card table. It's not that the princess expresses all her emotions on her face, but rather that the Empress Dowager has looked at the princess several times. Grandma Wang has been personally serving the Empress Dowager for many years, and of course, she never misses a single expression. It is this care and prudence that has led her to draw inspiration from the Empress Dowager. Yuan pondered that perhaps something unhappy happened to the girl's family, but she didn't expect it to be such a nightmare. No wonder the princess is absent-minded, no wonder she hesitates to speak when asked by the Empress Dowager, and no wonder the Empress Dowager feels so heartbroken. That year, the late emperor fell seriously ill and was still the emperor's saint. He brought the imperial consort, the young prince, and several ministers and women to the temple to pray for blessings. In the late night, the flames below the mountain burst into the sky, and there were cries for help. The emperor insisted on leading the guards to rescue. Unexpectedly, a big fire broke out in the temple, trapping the crown princess, His Highness, and the princess's mother. After rescuing His Highness, she went to save the crown princess again when the bad news came. Wang Mama remembered very clearly, and the empress was heartbroken. For the empress, she was not just the niece of her family. She had been attending the palace since the age of 8 and later accompanied the princess, just like her own daughter. Afterwards, the sinister conspiracy at the foot of the mountain was torn apart, causing chaos in the court and the public, until the emperor ascended the throne and gradually stabilized. A fire on the mountain is an accident, only the people trapped in the fire, because the Holy One took away the guards and martial monks, and was unable to rescue them, but could never come back. The mother of the crown princess and princess, a total of 9 people died. The princess was not in the midst of that disaster, perhaps because the mother and daughter had a heart-to-heart relationship. When she lived in the Sinang Palace in her childhood, she had dreams of several fires and cried incessantly in the middle of the night. She was carried by the Empress Dowager to her side and comforted to sleep. I have inquired about the uncle's mansion and also said that there will be 2 or 3 nightmares in a month. Fortunately, as I grew older, there were fewer nightmares, especially in recent years, and there have been no reports of the princess's shocking dreams. The Empress Dowager remained the same, unable to hear words like fire or water, and would feel uncomfortable for a long time. Thinking of this, Grandma Wang quietly glanced inside. The way the Empress Dowager comforted the princess remained the same as before. Thank you to the bookworm Zhengji for his ambitious and generous 10,000 yuan reward. Thank you to book friends Lao 10,000 Sierra Leonean Leones, Mao Chiu Weiwei, Su Biching's official girlfriend, Mo Yan, Mia 2022, Atlin University, Zio Yuanzi, and XP Star for their tips. There will definitely be more than 10,000 yuan plus. Let me save some manuscript and make it up next month. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Who's Not a Sweetheart? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Who's Not a Sweetheart? Lin Yunyan leaned against the Empress Dowager and listened to her repeated, "Don't be afraid." The table in the middle was pushed aside by the Empress Dowager a few days ago, so that she could hold on to this poor child tightly. In the situation just now, Lin Yunyan couldn't deceive the Empress Dowager and could only tell the truth, which obviously misled her. Undoubtedly, this was her coping strategy. It was evident that the Empress Dowager was so sad, and Lin Yunyan still felt a bit guilty in her heart. She doesn't remember much of her childhood memories, but one of the scenes was when the Empress Dowager comforted and startled her. The Empress held her like this, patting her back repeatedly until she fell asleep again. If there is anyone in the imperial city who truly cares for her, only the Empress Dowager can do so. For a moment, Lin Yunyan wanted to speak out her nightmare, but the next moment, reason stopped her fiercely. How should she tell the more vivid experience than a nightmare? How can she tell the elderly person in front of her that you only have 6 short years left in your life, and you close your eyes with your front legs and start fighting with your back legs? The identity of a princess and the title of the Lin family have all been reduced to nothingness. She and Su Jian, 2 trapped beasts, died in a raging fire like her mother in a shrinking circle. She can't say it. The things she can do and should do can be built into a mountain, but telling the truth to the Empress Dowager is not among them. "I'm fine," Lin Yunyan whispered, "I just woke up feeling uncomfortable. I'm fine now, don't worry." Alas! The Empress Dowager listened to her soft voice and said, "My family sent someone to the imperial dining room to get a bowl of honey sand ice. You liked it when you were young, and laughed when you saw it. Before you go back, let Mammy Wang get you silver ingots, so that you can buy dim sum boxes at Fulu restaurant. It's best for his family to eat. My sister Law eats more sweet food, and is in a good mood and happy." Lin Yunyan couldn't help but laugh. The Empress Dowager has this temperament. It is precisely because of her noble status as an elderly person that she has everything good and gives everything like a reward, which actually makes her very uninteresting. Therefore, her way of expressing concern towards younger generations has become increasingly direct. Give delicious food and buy delicious food with money. Lin Yunyan would never refute the Empress Dowager's kindness and nodded in agreement. The two calmed their emotions. Quickly, Misha Bing was delivered. A layer of honey in a layer of bean paste, spread on fine and dense crushed ice, are popular summer snacks among palace people. It's also a taste that Lin Yunyan hasn't tasted in years. The money she and Su Jian have to pay attention to the basic necessities of life, clothing, food, housing, and transportation. Where is the cost of buying iced drinks and dim sum? Biting a spoonful into the mouth, the crushed ice mixed with sweet honey melted on the tip of the tongue, causing the mouth to cool down. Then, this cool sweetness flowed down the mouth and into the throat and chest. That's great, she likes this kind of thing. It's not that one cannot endure hardship, but rather, in life, one must follow the path of eating sweetness. The Empress Dowager is very reasonable. Eating more sweet food will improve one's mood and make one feel more comfortable. Of course, not limited to young girls. This time, when she lives to the age of Empress Dowager, she also needs to eat more sweet food. After finishing using the honey sand ice and listening to the Empress Dowager's usual words, Lin Yunyan took the silver ingot handed over to her by Wang Mama and left the Sinane Palace with Wan Yu. On the square outside the palace, the carriage of the sincere uncle's mansion is already waiting. Lin Yunyan got off the small sedan chair in front of the palace gate and headed towards her own carriage. A gust of wind suddenly arose, and she turned her head to avoid. From afar, she saw more than 10 figures on the other side of the square. Her footsteps were hurried, and she could only distinguish the palace attendants and officials entering and leaving from their clothing, but she saw familiar figures in them at a glance. That's Su Jian. Lin Yunyan had never seen such a Su Jian before, a standing and walking Su Jian. The Su Jian she knew was not good at walking, and due to his injury, he had to use a wheelchair for years, and his body gradually changed with his health, ultimately affecting his physique. In my impression, Su Jian once looked in the mirror and said, "You look like two people." That kind of Su Jian was deeply remembered in Lin Yunyan's mind, which was the Su Jian she should be familiar with, but now she recognized another Su Jian. It's not a suspicion, but a certainty, and even she feels familiar with it. It's unbelievable. Su Jian walked calmly, while a young man in splendid attire beside him was dancing and saying something. Lin Yunyan didn't recognize the person's identity for a moment, but instead, Su Jian's outline became clearer in her eyes. Compared to the motionless Su Jian in the fire, the person in front of him had younger facial features and a more flamboyant expression. Reasonably. Lin Yunyan thought that for Su Jian, who was 16 or 17 years old, a limp was indeed a blow, but it would not be as frustrating as having to rely on a wheelchair due to a broken leg. Moreover, the waves of betrayal and calculation from all directions in the following years made him gradually lose hope. While pondering, Su Jian glanced at this room and then withdrew his gaze. It's difficult for Lin Yunyan to distinguish whether she has seen her or not just by looking at her movements. The carriage was already in front of her, holding the moon and putting on the petals. She reached out to help her and said, "Princess, with such a strong wind, I'm afraid there will be thunderstorms in the future." Lin Yunyan nodded and stepped onto the car. The pedals are folded, the curtains are placed, and the handlebars sit diagonally on the frame. With a gentle flick of the whip, the horse clatters forward, moving further and further. "What are you looking at?" Xia Qinglu casually waved her hand in front of Su Jian. "Look so carefully, which one is from?" Su Jian didn't wave his hand, only gave Xia Qinglu a sideways glance. He knows this young master too well. Xia Qinglu was the niece of the former empress, and his family and business were not his turn to worry about. He also had no aptitude for studying and practicing martial arts. His hobby was playing with birds, listening to plays, and fighting crickets. Naturally, he was very popular with his elderly husband, Marquis Uncle. The elders in the family couldn't bear to see that he was not up to par. A few years ago, they wanted to twist it twice but were stopped by the emperor, so they followed him. In the past 2 years, even the emperor has loved to hear him talk about the excitement outside the palace. When Su Jian glanced at her, Xia Qinglu felt bored and reluctantly withdrew her hand. After taking 2 steps and feeling unwell again, he lightly tapped Su Jian with his arm and said in a subdued voice, "That's the Empress Dowager's heart. It's useless to take a few more glances. You can see so clearly and ask me whose family does it belong to. Su Jian chuckled, "Who's not a sweetheart yet?" Xia Qinglu got used to her poor mouth and instinctively wanted to say, "You're not a hearty child." Fortunately, she reacted quickly and swallowed it back in one gulp. This sudden thrust made him cough. While pounding my chest, I secretly felt grateful, but fortunately I didn't blurt it out. He loves to joke, but some things cannot be said as jokes, especially between friends. It is even more important not to use deep friendship to say things that can be heart-wrenching. Indeed, who is not a sweetheart yet? After the death of the old duke, no one took Su Jian seriously anymore. Although both parents are present and siblings are complete, it is not as good to be alone and have a pure life. It's not a good idea. Xia Qinglu breathed a sigh of relief and her thoughts quickly adjusted for herself. A man should marry a man, a woman should marry a woman, and the Empress Dowager's heart and liver should also talk about marriage. Otherwise, you can take a few more glances and see if it's useful. Su Jian. The new book period is quite important. Continue to shout for recommendation tickets and monthly tickets. Everyone has the energy to chat and chat more in the book review section in chapter. This is also an indicator, but I don't meet the standard. I'm too talkative and cover my face. Thank you to a book friend for giving a reward of 10,000 yuan to a fox, and thank you to the official girlfriends Mia 2022 and Su Bicheng for giving a reward. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. I give you ideas. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator. Chapter 6. Hidden Merit and Fame. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Hidden Merit and Fame. I have the intention to speak carefully, but if I really want to speak, I don't know where to start. Fortunately, my sister's palm was warm, giving her courage little by little through the clasped hands. That young Master Su, Lin Yunyan said, you know, I just glanced at him from behind the screen a while ago and knew his appearance and size, so I couldn't say anything more about him. Looking at each other from a high gate, the elders of the two families had the intention of getting married, and the marriage was pushed forward. I know it's all like this, Lin Yunyan continued. My mother also said, this is already good, there's so much that I haven't even seen those two eyes. After saying two words, Lin Yunyan stopped again. Lin Yunyan did not urge. She could see that the elder sister was not hesitant, but knew too little about Su Ku, unable to even describe her ugly physique. I can't say what's good about him, nor can I say what's bad about him, but I am. Lin Yunyan bit her lip firmly, I just feel like something's wrong with him. Marriage emphasizes fate, Lin Yunyan said. I just believe one sentence, marriage emphasizes fate. If you see something wrong with him, it must be because you don't have fate. Upon hearing this, Lin Yunyan's tense shoulders relaxed a bit. The sister's unwavering support made her smile. I'm afraid it's because of my own stubbornness. Lin Yunyan's mood relaxed a bit, and her thoughts became smoother. He's the legitimate son of the Duke's mansion. Although it's not his turn to inherit the title, he still has a noble status. His uncle said he has good martial arts and literary talent. Our own family situation, we know that our family has never treated me unfairly, but my father was born from an illegitimate family. In terms of family background, this marriage is something I aspire to. If I can say it's reasonable and there are rumors about Su Gongzi's problem, and still fight for myself, but I can't understand anything, just rely on a feeling. How can this be done? It was precisely because of these considerations that she buried her anxiety and confusion in her heart. Lin Yunyan said, Big sister thinks something's wrong, so she still needs to talk to her grandmother. If we haven't discussed marriage yet, it would probably make sense, Lin Yunyan shook her head. But once all the 8 characters are combined, we're waiting for the wedding date. Unless it's a big issue, my grandmother won't agree. Lin Yunyan blinked. There is indeed a lot of right and wrong. Taking Su Ku's outer rooms and servants out for a walk is like a drama. But that alone is not enough. Su Guogong's old trick was repeated, causing Su Ku to kneel at the entrance of Bo Mansion for 3 days and 3 nights. The Lin family would also be very passive. Who made my grandmother lose face for decades? Her old family has never cultivated the ability to tear apart her face. I have a way here, Lin Yunyan whispered, as long as the wedding date is not yet determined, there is always a possibility of a comeback. I will do my best to stop my grandmother. Although the method may not look good, it will never damage my sister's reputation. She should just be like me, don't back down. Lin Yunyan looked straight at Lin Yunyan. The specific path was not mentioned by the younger sister. But Lin Yunyan believes in her. For one thing, they have a sister's friendship for more than 10 years. When they were young, they quarreled with each other for some small things. They also made serious apologies to each other. The feelings they grew up with were not comparable to polite appearance. Secondly, my younger sister is a princess and a popular figure in front of the Empress Dowager. She must have more ideas than herself. Chen Chen nodded and Lin Yunjing said, there has always been a voice in my heart telling me that this marriage is not possible. Just go ahead and do it, I won't back down. As he spoke, the room gradually darkened. It's almost thunderstorm, Lin Yunyan stood up. I'll go back first, big sister, relax. Lin Yunjing escorted her out and whispered, if you want me to do anything, just tell me. I'm not good at it. It's okay to go to my grandmother's place and cry. Lin Yunyan chuckled loudly. Where is Lin Yunjing good at crying? It's clear that my grandmother has a thin skin, and when the younger generation's eyes turn red, she can't sit still. Even if she can't sit still, she won't regret marriage for no reason. I entered Bowen Garden with my front foot, but thunder started in my back foot. In no time, a torrential rain poured down, and most of the heat dissipated. Mama leaned her head and looked east several times before frowning and greeting Wan Yu. She whispered, what's wrong with the princess? Why sit under the window and stare blankly at the pitch-black sky as soon as you come back? Is this thunderstorm so beautiful? I had a nightmare while taking a nap earlier, Bian Yu replied. The way I woke up just now startled me. Before leaving the palace, Grandma Wang also reminded me that the princess had dreamed of something bad. If she had another nightmare these nights, she must ask the imperial physician to prescribe a calming prescription. Mama let out a sigh after listening. She is Lin Yunyan's wet nurse, who has taken close care of her for so many years and knows the situation best. The nightmare that can make the Sinang palace worry, the princess must have dreamed of a big fire again. It's been a few years since I last had a nightmare. Mama muttered, I still need the kitchen to make some delicious food. If you eat well, you'll be in good spirits. Mama was instructing Wan Yu when she suddenly heard Lin Yunyan calling her. She quickly came in and asked with a smile, do you have anything to tell the princess? There's one thing, Lin Yunyan gestured to Mama to approach. Mom asked someone to quietly give Ci Gui a message. Mama was taken aback and said, if the princess has something to say, just talk to the third master directly. Why do you need to go through Ci Gui? He's more talkative. After hearing Lin Yunyan's rough idea, Mama had a clear idea in her mind. The moonlight has thickened. The floor tiles paved with bluestone slabs were in disrepair for a long time. Lin Sun, the third master of the sincere uncle's mansion, got off the sedan chair without any precautions. His shoes got wet from the outside to the inside, and he couldn't help but frown. The waiter greeted him and immediately made a sincere apology upon seeing the situation. Lin Sun didn't say anything and followed the waiter upstairs. The waiter knocked on the elegant room and said to the leader, Uncle, the third master has arrived. Ci Gui quickly stood up, nodded and bowed to Lin Sun, and presented himself to the main seat. Please come tonight, it's still for the matter of Qingnan Qingqing Lane. Ci Gui poured tea with his own hands. I've been thinking about it, and I need to explain the pros and cons to you. Lin Sun listened very attentively. Ci Gui talked about it 7 or 8 times before, and that's the first time he heard about it. The more he listened, the more he felt that Ci Gui was sincere. People have become more sincere, and business looks more like that. I'll reconsider. Lin Sun didn't make a decision immediately. What should be, Ci Gui smiled apologetically, eat first. Full of wine and food, Ci Gui escorted Lin Sun away. On a summer night, the warm breeze blew on his face. He wiped his face and said to the servant beside him, "Go and talk to me." I have already told him the good and bad things according to his instructions. The servant followed suit and left. Ci Gui stood in place, pondering silently. Although others respectfully called him uncle while walking outside, Ci Gui knew his weight. He and Lin Sun's wife, Chen Shi, had already gone out of 5 clothes early, and now they are just showing some respect for their looks. Therefore, Madame San asked someone to deliver a message and ask him to talk to Master San well. Ci Gui agreed without saying a word. Originally, the third lady was already interested in this business and could make her own decisions. As long as she convinced the old man and his wife, why bother the third lady without hesitation? Unfortunately, the third lady wanted to conceal her achievements and fame, and she didn't let him mention it to the third master. Madame San has put in a lot of effort for the sake of Mr. San's face. On the other side, after receiving the news that Lin Sun would go to the main courtyard as soon as he returned to the mansion, the false third lady and the real second Miss Lin Yunyan also set off. Thank you to book friend Su Bicheng's official girlfriend, Mia 2022, book friend 201704291009366671, and Cheong Yu Ba Huang for their tips. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Feng Shui is not good. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 8. What firefight did you eat? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. What firefight did you eat? The oil lamp in the room is dimmer. Lin Yunyan was about to continue sharing her views on business with Xiaoduan when she saw Qin Yan holding a thin blanket. Qin Yan is the eldest maid in the Zaishou courtyard. As a family-born child, she has been highly valued by the Xiaoduan family in recent years. Lin Yunyan doesn't like her at all. She hates it so much that her teeth itch. Once upon a time, after my grandmother fell ill, 2 maids who had been released from the mansion earlier gathered some money and quietly brought it to my grandmother to seek a doctor. High-quality medicinal herbs are unaffordable, just ordinary remedies, seeking comfort in one's heart. Qin Yan took the initiative to take the medicine and never returned with the silver. Although the silver was not much, it was the trusted maid who did such a thing, and my grandmother couldn't bear it even more. Lin Yunyan pursed her lips and said, "We need to move this kind of person away from our grandmother earlier." With a thought in her heart, she spoke up and asked, "Sister Qin Yan, is this blanket for me?" Upon hearing the sound, Qin Yan quickly replied, "It will be a bit cold at night. The princess used it to cover her belly. This one was only exposed to the sun at noon, clean and soft." "That would be great. Sister, give it to me, and I'll cover my leg first," Lin Yunyan smiled. "The room looks a bit dark, sister, could you please move it?" A few words, everything has been arranged. Qin Yan looked at Lin Yunyan's outstretched arm and instinctively handed the thin blanket over. When Lin Yunyan's hands were empty, she watched as she covered her legs with a blanket. Qin Yan blinked twice and said, "Oh, by the way, she needs to go cut the wick." Lin Yunyan then continued to talk to Xiaoduan. She didn't particularly suppress her voice and said, "If the business makes money, it would ruin our own financial fortune just for the sake of our eldest sister's marriage. I don't think this account is worth it." A look of surprise flashed in Duan's eyes, and she said, "I thought your sisters were in good relationship. Why is there a hint of disdain in the words of such a good relationship?" "You need face, I want it too." Lin Yunyan did not hide her straightforward mood in her tone. How can sisters who grew up in childhood not be good? This statement is too direct. Directly, Xiaoduan seemed to be doing something wrong for a while. Lin Yunyan continued to be indifferent and said, "Your elder sister has left the cabinet and your dowry has been reduced. You can't live up to your dignity. As you said to your uncle, being the only one in the Yun generation will definitely bring you glory. You have always loved your elder sister both inside and outside, and you have really been reduced. Not only is the government dissatisfied, but other old ladies who have had a lot of contact also see you as a joke. Xiaoduan's face turned pale. She knew what others would say behind their backs even when she raised her toes. It's not biological, it's different. I usually pretend so well, but when it comes to real gold and silver, I'll reveal my true colors, right? Fake emotions are not as good as those real villains. She is such a person who cherishes her feathers, how could she not bear to give Yunjing better treatment? Your mouth, Xiaoduan scolded and lightly tapped Lin Yunyan's lips. Grandma's kindness makes you speak stingy. Lin Yunyan couldn't stop laughing. If you ask her to judge, my grandmother loves her face, but when it comes to my older sister's sincerity, there is still a score of 6 or 7. I didn't go to the heart and lungs, but I also took care of it. I knew in my heart that Lin Yunyan was still looking for trouble on purpose. You really don't care about the money. Second uncle left early, and the daily expenses of the second house come from the public middle school, but there is no reward. I feel sorry for all the dowries you have given me. But I can also understand you. You want my elder sister to get married quickly, also to let the Shugua mansion take care of third uncle. The smile on Xiaoduan's face was almost uncontrollable. I know my own situation best. The Lin family is extremely harmonious, even if there is some friction, they complain a few words in their hearts. In the blink of an eye, things will pass, and they never openly show their dissatisfaction and discord. What kind of firefight did this girl have today? Not like those 100 firecrackers, deafening with a crackling sound, but rather like fireworks, colorful and overwhelming, making one look dumbfounded. She is really dumbfounded. For a while, she couldn't even guess if what Lin Yunyan said was true. The attitude is far from what it used to be. Furthermore, it is too common in the officialdom for in-laws to support each other. The two families formed a marriage alliance, and the Duke of Shugua's mansion paved the way for Sanlang. How could it be said from Yunyan's mouth that they treated Yunjing as a hot potato and quickly sold her to exchange for silver? It sounds so unpleasant that even her old lady feels embarrassed to have a wedding ceremony immediately. If it weren't for her thin skin, Xiaoduan would have wanted to cover Lin Yunyan's mouth and block her, saying, "Little ancestor, don't understand me." Lin Yunyan saw that Xiaoduan was on pins and needles, so she squinted at her and said, "I have something else to tell you secretly." Xiaoduan finally didn't need to listen to that random understanding and immediately cleared her throat. Qin Yan had already set up the wick, understood the sound, bowed and stepped back. Everything that Qin Yan should listen to has already been told to listen carefully. Now, Lin Yunyan is going to talk about something that Qin Yan shouldn't listen to. As you mentioned earlier, it may be difficult to make money by only doing the original rent collection business in Qingzhen Lane. I sound very reasonable, but I have a business deal. Even if there is no one else in the room, Lin Yunyan's voice is still very low. I heard it in the Sinang Palace, and next year, it should be an imperial examination. During the previous year of the imperial examination, the Ministry of Rights proposed the idea of government support for students, and during the imperial examination, accommodation was generally arranged uniformly. This time, I have taken over the hot potato from Qingqing Lane for Shuntian Prefecture, and I also need to make them reciprocate by placing the candidates here. Xiaoduan's eyeballs rolled. She had no doubt about Lin Yunyan's news at all. Although there has been no news of Anka being opened outside, with the caution of the Empress Dowager, she has raised it, even if it is not a definite decision, it is still very close. Asking the Yamen to collect money is definitely more worry-free than individual households collecting it. When candidates go for the exam, it only takes 2 to 3 months, Xiaoduan pointed out. It's not a long-term business. Lin Yunyan nodded and said, "So, if we do business with other companies at other times, the government will not stop us." Following the old practice, the number of candidates for the spring festival examination was as low as over 1,000, and the number was as high as 3,000 to 4,000. Approximately 1/10 of the candidates were admitted as successful candidates. There are 63 houses in Qingzhen Lane, with the main house arranged on the left and right wings, which can accommodate at least 200 to 300 people. According to this ratio, there can also be 30 to 30 high schools. After the list is released, the people will know that this alley has good feng shui and can make it on the list. The power of rumors is so great that Xiaoduan knows it too well. Regardless of the facts, everyone claims to be honest and diligent in their studies. Every year, students who study in Beijing are willing to spend money to rent a place to live. Those students who stay in Beijing all year round usually come from affluent families, have a generous budget, high rent, and are well paid. They are also accompanied by servants and mother-in-law, and they are well organized inside and outside. When they need maintenance from their employers, they are actually very rare. It sounds good, Xiaoduan thought for a moment and then said, but Honesty Lane has a score of 10%, and other places also have a score of 10%. If you start playing drums and gongs, they will follow suit. The other places are collected by the Yamen and temporarily moved out for candidates to prepare for the exam, Lin Yunyan said. Chengchengxiang has been newly repaired and there are no old leases. If you like it, you can make a reservation and move in on the same day you pay. New, convenient, and hassle-free, that's what Xingqiao is all about. Think about it, if there's a top scorer. Lin Yunyan gave a thumbs up. If you don't want to rent it out, there are people standing at the entrance of the alley holding money. Thank you to Su Bicheng's official girlfriend, a fox, and Ningxia Qianmeng for their tips, and thank you to Xiao Xiang's book friend Qing Yingying for their tips. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Telling the Truth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Telling the Truth. Xiaoduan was not as optimistic as Lin Yunyan, but she also laughed at her and said, at such a young age, you think so beautifully. Lin Yunyan is smiling. It's not as beautiful as she thinks. Once upon a time, there was a top scorer named Lang in the honest lane. Ci Gui did not receive the assistance of the sincere uncle's mansion, so he shamelessly allied with others and became a third lord. Relying on oneself to run forward and backward, the rent in Qingzhen Lane has skyrocketed. This is a business that is increasing day by day. Unfortunately, 2 years later, Ci Gui fell on the night road and hit his head, never waking up again. It wasn't until a few years later that Su Jian unexpectedly learned some insider information while inquiring about other things. During the construction of Qingzhen Lane, 2 boxes of gold bricks were excavated under a house. The other 2 dongjia privately split up without telling Ci Gui at all. Before the incident, Ci Gui learned about this situation and chased after him to demand the golden bricks. At night, it was pitch black and a remote alley. By the time someone discovered it at dawn, Ci Gui had already run out of breath. Without personal identification, Ci Gui had no signs of retaliation, so even if they knew there were hidden conflicts between the 2 sides, they could not say whether Ci Gui's death was an accident or a murder. In Lin Yunyan's view, there is an account for collecting rent, and those 2 boxes of gold bricks are the ones that are unnoticed. If you don't keep your account or see the light, as long as you hide it well outside, it won't be stolen even on the day of being stolen. I just came up with an idea, Lin Yunyan said calmly. Whether the idea can be applied to business or not, it still needs to be understood by business people. Uncle San is interested in doing this business. Why don't you ask him to discuss with Ci Gui about the cost of repairs and how to proceed? I will carefully prepare a document for you. Once the articles of association are clearly written, things can be handled clearly. Xiaoduan could hear this. When female relatives host banquets and treat guests in the garden, it is necessary to make a list of who to invite, what food and gifts to prepare, and how much to spend. If the writing is not well written and the thinking is unclear, how can the banquet be organized well? As soon as Sanlang spoke, it was like an alley, and he couldn't write less. If it's really written well, the prospects are also good. Xiao Duan hesitated. To be honest, I still don't want to touch Yun Jing's dowry. The marriage date has not been officially determined yet, Lin Yunyan advised. How come we don't get married within the year, and when the spring of the following year comes, the Duke of Su will not recognize this marriage? Oh my! Xiao Duan let out a few curses, Tongyan Wuji, Tongyan Wuji. Lin Yunyan almost burst out laughing. What kind of fairy tale is she? After the start of spring, it would be difficult for Xiaoduan to shake off Su Guogong's house, as it would be like a dog's skin ointment. Uncle worked with his father a few years ago and never handled it alone, Lin Yunyan said. You want Duke Su to promote Uncle, and this is a good opportunity to see if Uncle can handle it. Otherwise, if he is promoted, Uncle will not be able to handle it, and in his position, he will not be able to plan his politics. Uncle is uncomfortable, sister is uncomfortable, and the Duke's office is also uncomfortable. What about you? Xiao Duan's blush. Think about that situation, there's nowhere to hide her face. That's your uncle, Xiao Duan coughed lightly, trying to save his face. Can't you expect him to order something good? Lin Yunyan went straight and said, just because he's my own son, he's embarrassing you outside, and you're even angrier. Xiao Duan. This girl, why are you telling the truth today? Dalang is the legitimate eldest son, inheriting the title, acting with integrity and prudence, which is both reassuring and joyful. As a mother, can we not hope that Sanlang and Shiro can also catch up with their elder brother's footsteps? Brothers working together, helping each other, is what makes a family prosperous. If she only knows how to hold off the big brother, even if she doesn't mind being a brother, her old mother will be angry and unable to help her up the wall. Lin Yunyan stopped as soon as she saw the improvement. Personality change is not something that happens overnight, it still needs to be subtle. The sudden arrival was too fierce, and my grandmother was afraid she couldn't bear it. It was already late at night, and Xiaoduan called for people to come in and blew the lights to settle the tent. Lin Yunyan was sleeping in the blue gauze cabinet, knowing that Xiaoduan had not fallen asleep and was tossing and turning. Taking a certain risk to earn more silver money and steadily marrying off her granddaughter Feng, these two are in the old lady's heart, going hand in hand. Before falling asleep in a daze, Lin Yunyan was thinking that she remembered the name of the top scorer in Anka, as well as some impressions of the top scorer and the top scorer. Looking back on her memories, she remembered a few more second-tier men and let them all live in the honest lane. Summer dawn comes early. When Lin Yunyan opened her eyes, there was a slight sense of the commotion outside. It should be that Xiaoduan has already risen. She doesn't seem to be growing at this age. Lin Yunyan also got up and put on her clothes to come out. Did you wake up? Xiaoduan was sitting in front of the dressing table, with her long hair neatly combed and her forehead tied. The old lady feels shallow. Lin Yunyan walked over and looked into the mirror. Xiaoduan's skin is white, and there is a slight blueness in the fundus, which is very obvious. It's because you have something in mind that you can't sleep soundly, Lin Yunyan said. Xiaoduan asked her to speak up, smiled slightly, and without hesitation, he earnestly discussed with her. There is a business that can be done, and your third uncle wants to try it. It's human nature. I was thinking that our family has stable income and reasonable expenses, so we don't have such a shortage of silver after calculation. For families like us, we have to live our lives according to the old routine, and stability is the most important thing. We have a balance in our food and clothing. The hereditary and incompetent Duke and Marquis mansion cannot produce a young generation who can make achievements and achievements. It's nothing, but to produce a few playboy sons who have no number in their hands and even less in their hearts, that would be the end of their lives. No matter how big the family business is, it has to be compensated. Therefore, it is necessary to discipline and restrain children, and not lose the demeanor of the uncle's mansion in daily walking. It is also not advisable to scatter silver coins like an unjust leader. Spending money is small, losing one's head is big. The mountains of gold and silver may not necessarily be mountains of blessings. As one's family grows, they attract the attention of both petty and noble individuals, which can be found in the history of various dynasties for reference. Having both a title and a princess in one's own family is enough in terms of scenery, there is no need to pursue that mismatched wealth and status. Lin Yunyan is too familiar with Xiao Duan's ideas. Caution, moderation, and rules were also words that my grandfather often talked about during his lifetime. But there are still many troubles in this world. If you don't look for it, it will still follow you. Especially, this trouble is big and heavy. If you want to be impartial, it will kick you face down and your mouth will be covered in mud. Without speaking immediately, Lin Yunyan pouted at Xiao Duan. Xiao Duan looked in her eyes and felt a thump in her heart. This girl hasn't been quite right since last night. Gesturing for the maids and maids around her to withdraw, Xiao Duan asked, "Is that all you want to do in that business?" "We have to do it," Lin Yunyan thought quickly and whispered, "People like us need to save some private money." As the words entered her ear, Xiao Duan's eyes suddenly sank. What does it mean? What did Yunyan hear from the words of the Empress Dowager in the Xinang Palace yesterday? Thank you to the book friends Xiao Yuan, Mia 2022, and Su Biqing's official girlfriend for their tips, and thank you to Xiao Xiang's book friend Yan 1988 for their tips. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Someone else to handle it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Someone else to handle it. The room is quiet. Xiao Duan's mind is full of various questions. Is it because the Holy See cannot tolerate these old dignitaries? Sincere Uncle Mansion has always been respectful and restrained. Even if we want to kill chickens as a warning to monkeys, we shouldn't take ourselves out as that chicken. The Empress Dowager has conveyed this message to Yunyan. Is it because her elderly family sympathizes with Yunyan, or does she not agree with the emperor's ideas? The Holy One needs to take action. How much does it take to move, and how much does it take? Her family has been passed down smoothly to the present day. If there were any accidents with her, what would she look like if she kicked her legs to meet her uncle and ancestors? The more Xiao Duan thought about it, the more cautious she became. She kept her voice down and asked Lin Yunyan, "Are you sure you didn't express the wrong meaning? Is that what the Xinang Palace means?" Lin Yunyan had a positive expression on her face. Xinang Palace has not expressed anything, but she herself means it that way. She has thick skin and is not afraid to lie to Xiao Duan. "I didn't express myself wrong," Lin Yunyan nodded. Yesterday, the Imperial Study sent a basin of coral to the Xinang Palace, saying it was offered by Duke Fuguo. He didn't want to work in the Ministry of War and handed over his resignation to the emperor. The Empress Dowager then muttered, "Those who are exposed outside are always cared for." The Su family has only 2 ancestors and grandchildren for so many years, and everything is too clear. She also told me, "Keep your salary well, and win some more silver money." This statement is 7 parts true and 3 parts false. Coral, Su Jian sent it. The dictionary was also handed over by Su Jian. These 2 things, Xiao Duan can tell with just a little inquiry outside. As for what the Empress Dowager said, there is no way to inquire. Whatever Lin Yunyan said is what she said, and besides, she also stuffed a truth into it. Xiao Duan tasted back and forth, and the people in the palace were always convoluted in their speeches, but she caught the key points. To stand tall in front of the esteemed, one must be clear and not too clear. Greed for ink and wealth, unclear gold and silver cannot be used, but even without any hidden things, they cannot be used. Xiao Duan understood these things and said, that matter still needs to be changed. Honest Lane must not be related to us, and someone else must handle it. Lin Yunyan understood clearly. Of course, she also thought of this. I didn't mention it last night because I didn't want my grandmother to leave an impression that she was well prepared to come to Qingxin Lane. Obviously, my grandmother is also a well-rounded person who tossed and turned all night. It's impossible to just think about the word steady, but she must also think about how to do business after making a move. Having a clear idea in her heart, but on her face, Lin Yunyan listened attentively. Xiaoduan took a sip of tea to moisten her throat and said, "Every person who is ranked on the gold list is a disciple of the emperor. There has always been only Xie Shi and Xie Jun, but there is no reason to thank the owner who rented a house. Honest Lane boasts about feng shui, while Wang Pe sells melons, which is a common occurrence in the business world. However, this Wang Pe cannot be an official. In the future, when students enter Beijing, they will ask the mansion of Qingyi Uncle's mansion, and our business will come to an end. Not only business, but also the mind. Especially when the emperor showed his intention to kill the rooster and warn the monkey, the well-behaved monkey refused and rushed out to become a chicken cub. The old birthday star hung himself." "You're right," Lin Yunyan agreed. "It's not appropriate for Ci Gui to come forward alone." With his wealth, he suddenly took out a whole alley of silver coins. Everyone knows who is standing behind him. Choose a person who is unfamiliar and trustworthy to outsiders. Xiaoduan pondered for a moment before making a decision and said, "I'll choose the person. I'll call your father over later and discuss with him again. Let him have a plan in his mind, so that Sanlang and Sanlang can go and finalize the contract with Ci Gui first." Related to her own future, Xiaoduan is very cautious. Inside, there was chatter and chatter, while outside, people from various rooms also arrived one after another to greet. Madame Chen walked into the courtyard and as soon as she looked up, she saw many people standing under the corridor. Wan Mama, Qin Yan, and others who were serving her mother.in.law stood, while her second sister.in.law Huang and fourth sister.in. Law Yuan also stood, biting their ears and talking. Her eldest niece Yunjing saw her, smiled and bowed, then waved to Lin Yunfang behind her. "Who's inside?" Chen walked up and asked her sister.in.law softly. "Yunyan rested here yesterday," Yuan replied. "The grandparents and grandchildren are whispering to each other." Chen's music. Lin Yunfang, with a long neck and a curious expression, was pulled back to her side by Lin Yunjing. "Let grandma know you eavesdropped and deduct your pocket money," Lin Yunjing joked to her. Lin Yunfang is the youngest daughter, with a particularly lively temperament. Upon hearing this, she said, "Tell me to listen. If second sister speaks ill of us, I will also expose her shortcomings." Chen heard it and spat at her, saying, "Are you still using Yunyan to talk about you? Your bad behavior." The old lady can even hear calluses in her ears. When these words were spoken, everyone covered their mouths and laughed happily. Lin Yunjing also smiled. She could probably guess that the secret conversation between her second sister and grandmother was probably to reject her own marriage. The matter of marriage was entrusted to her second sister, and she could also imagine the difficulty involved. May rested here yesterday. Did she talk to her grandmother once at night? With this thought in mind, Lin Yunjing turned her gaze to Wan Mama and others, hoping to see some clues in their expressions. Wan Mama's face remained unchanged, and so did San Mama. Qin Yan, how could Qin Yan's expression be a bit strange? Before Lin Yunjing could figure it out, a corner of the bamboo curtain in the middle room was lifted and Lin Yunyan leaned out. She said crisply, "Grandmother, please have your uncle speak inside." A group of people fished in. Lin Yunyan took Lin Yunjing's arm and squeezed her eyes. Lin Yunjing saw that she was confident and also smiled. The sisters walked inside without saying anything. Lin Yunjing caught a glimpse of Qin Yan, who looked at their sister's hands, and looked thoughtful. "It's very strange." During the next time, Xiaoduan sat on Arhat's bed and was saluted. Chen reported, "Yesterday, Wanfu Tower sent some designs to Yunjing for selection. This afternoon, the Hongxi Hall will send a batch of new clothes for Yunjing to try on." "I was dazzled by my choices," Huang continued, and even said to have the princess palm my hand. Be careful, Xiao Duan took a sip of her tea. If you don't hit Wanfu Tower, you can choose another one. You must choose the one that suits your heart. Huang was slightly stunned at the words. That's right, but she could vaguely sense something, not in a hurry, in the words of Xiaoduan. Just a few days ago, Xiaoduan expressed that her wedding date was a bit tight and she had to act more quickly. But today, she suddenly turned around. Could it be that there were some situations in the marriage that she didn't know about? Huang was suspicious in his heart, and he didn't speak rashly, only carefully observing the left and right. With this observation, she could tell that something was wrong with Qin Yan. Yes. When she entered the room earlier, she turned her head and seemed to see Qin Yan looking at Yun Jing with an indescribable expression. Does Qin Yan know anything? Thank you to book friend Su Bicheng for his official girlfriend and the red envelope he received from the store. End of this chapter.